राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदानंदन भज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन भज जनरंजन यमुना तीरावनचार्य यमुना तीरावनचार्य जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So we're reading from Canto 5, Chapter 17, verse number 2. Yadraha Vava Veera Vrata Ottana Padai Param Bhagavato Smat Kula Devata Charnar Ravindodakam Iti Yam Anusavanam Utkrishyamana Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena Dridam Klidyamanantar Hridaya Otkanthya Vivasha Milita Lochana Yugala Kudmala Vigalita Mala Bashpa Kalaya Bhivya Jamana Roma Pulaka Kulako Dhunapi Parmadarena Shirasa Bibharti. Word to word meanings. Yatra Havava Indrovaloka Veeravrata firmly determined. Uttanapadi, the famous son of Maharaj Uttanapad. Param Bhagavataha, the most exalted devotee. Asmat, our Kula Devata, of the family deity. Charna Aravinda, of the lotus feet. Udakam, in the water. Iti, thus. Yam, which. Anusavanam, constantly. Utkrishyamana, being increased. Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena, by devotional service unto the Lord. Dridam, greatly. Klidyamana Anta Hridaya, being softened within the core of his heart. Otkanthya, by great anxiety. Vivasha, spontaneously. Amilita, slightly open. Lochana, of eyes. Yugala, pair. Kudmala, from the flower-like. Vigalita, emanating. Amala, uncontaminated. Bashpa Kalaya, with tears. Abhivyajyamana, being manifested. Roma Pulaka Kulakaha, whose symptoms of ecstasy on the body. Aduna Api, even now. Param Adarena, with great reverence. Shirasa, by the head. Bibharti, he bears. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Dhruv Maharaj, the famous son of Maharaj Uttanapad, is known as the most exalted devotee of the Supreme Lord because of his firm determination in executing devotional service. Knowing that the sacred Ganges water washes the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, Dhruv Maharaj, situated on his own planet, to this very day accepts that water on his head with great devotion. Because he constantly thinks of Krishna very devoutly within the core of his heart, he is overcome with ecstatic anxiety. Tears flow from his half-open eyes and eruptions appear on his body. Purport. When a person is firmly fixed in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is described as Veervrata, fully determined. Such a devotee increases his ecstasy in devotional service more and more. Thus, as soon as he remembers Lord Vishnu, his eyes fill with tears. This is a symptom of a Mahabhagavat. Dhruv Maharaj maintained himself in that devotional ecstasy, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also gave us a practical example of transcendental ecstasy when he lived at Jagannath Puri. His pastimes there are fully narrated in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Avadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratushe Nama He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishmanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vancha Kalpatarobhesha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Tanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mokam karoti vachalam pangom langayate girim yat kripatam ham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from this 17th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this chapter is entitled The Descent of the Mother Ganges, or how the Mother Ganges descended on this material platform, on this material world. So now in the previous verse we were discussing about Dhruva Loka. It was mentioned that Dhruva Loka is the topmost planet of this universe. And it was described that the Ganga descended there after 1000 millennium. 1000 millennium after it entered the ocean, after it entered from that hole that was created by by Vaman Dev. After 1000 years, it descended on Dhruva Loka. And that is why Dhruva Loka was also called as Vishnupad, because it was situated on Lord Vishnu's lotus feet. Basically, Lord Vishnu's lotus feet touched Mother Ganges and it settled in Dhruva Loka, so that's why it was called as Vishnupad, abode of Lord Vishnu. So now in this verse, it's mentioned that it's mentioned about Dhruv Maharaj. It's mentioned about his qualities, and it's also mentioned that how he keeps Mother Ganges always on his head. So here it's mentioned that Dhruv Maharaj was firmly determined in executing devotional service. And this we all know in the past time, that no one could shake him in his determination. When he was determined, when he left home for practicing devotional service, when he went to the forest, Narad Muni personally came to test him. Narad Muni came to test him and told him that this is not possible for you. You are just a small child, and many yogis, many people have tried in the past. Many births they have tried, many yoga processes they have performed. They have not been able to satisfy the Lord. How is it possible for you? So he tells him that you go home, come after some time when you grow up, and then by the mercy of the Lord you will be able to do. But here it's clearly mentioned that he was firmly determined. That if you can help me, let me know the process by which we can attain the Supreme Lord, or by which I can get the kingdom greater than my grandfather. But he was firmly determined in that. And such a great devotee, the thing that is mentioned here is, still that great devotee holds the Ganges water on his head. Still, even though he was a very, very great devotee, but he has great respect for this water or the Mother Ganges that descended on the Dhruvaloka. And in the coming series of verses also we see that even the Saptarishis that are mentioned, the 7 great sages who are there, Marichi, Atri and all those great sages, even those great rishis keep this water on their head, keep this separate Ganges water on their head. And they say that this is the perfection of all austerities, this is the ultimate reward that is there. So one thing here we see that why it is so important, or why even though these are great devotees, but still they have so much respect for Mother Ganga, or still they keep the water of river Ganga on their head. The only reason is because it touched the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. And that's how we understand that anything which becomes connected with the Lord, or anything which has any connection with the Lord, that also becomes very, very auspicious. Or that item, that object also becomes very, very auspicious. Like here, Mother Ganga became very, very auspicious, because it washed the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. That's what we discussed yesterday. On a similar note, I was hearing that once about, it was recently there was one book about Calcutta, written by one of the devotees of ISKCON. So in that it was mentioned some past time that how Prabhupada was telling this, that how it's very, very auspicious to do devotional service in Mayapur. Because Mayapur is the place where the Lord descended, where the Lord personally did his pastimes. And that's why it's considered very, very auspicious that this place, Mayapur, is considered very, very auspicious to perform devotional service. But here, there he was mentioning that more auspicious than that is the place of Calcutta. If someone stays here, someone does devotional service, that is even more auspicious, because many, many great devotees took birth in Calcutta and they performed their pastimes, they traversed to the different places of Calcutta. And that's why he said that it's very, very auspicious to do devotional service, more auspicious than Mayapur in Calcutta. So again, the point that I was trying to make is how anything which gets connected with the Lord, or something which is connected with the Lord, becomes very, very auspicious. So now here in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that when a person is firmly fixed in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is described as Veeravrata, fully determined. And as we saw the example of Dhruv Maharaj, another example which Prabhupada gives of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So of course we know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the Lord himself, but then he also took the mood of a devotee. He was Krishna himself, but he took the mood of Radharani, the greatest of all devotees, and how he also performed his different pastimes in Jagannath Puri. So we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his pastimes for 48 years on this planet. And 24 years, the initial pastimes for the one he performed at his home in West Bengal. That is called as the Adi Leela. And after that, the remaining 24 years of his pastimes, after he took sannyas, that was the time, the 6 years he spent in traveling all around India. He went to different places. He went to Jagannath Puri, Bengal, and then Vrindavan, Kanyakumari, many other places. And last 18 years, that is what is mentioned here. That's what when he performed his pastimes in Jagannath Puri. And he displayed many of these ecstasies, as it's mentioned, that he also gave us a practical example of transcendental ecstasy when he lived at Jagannath Puri. And it's described in the last 12 years, they were very, very intense pastimes. He was only with his confidential devotees like Ramananda Rai, Swarup Damodar. He used to stay in that place, Gambhira. And many, many intense pastimes he performed there. And it was mentioned that Krishnera Viraha Leela Prabhura Antara. That last 12 years of his life was simply devoted to relishing the pastimes of Krishna in separation within the heart of the Lord. And it's described that in that attitude of separation, it was very, very difficult to understand for general public to understand his activities or whatever he did. And externally, sometimes he appeared like a madman. Sometimes it's described in those pastimes, he'll laugh like anything. Sometimes he'll cry. Sometimes he'll dance. And many other activities which were not understandable for general public. But that's what he displayed, that pastimes of great devotee or pastimes of ecstasy. So it's described many other pastimes in that happened, or many other pastimes were performed in Jagannath Puri. One of the pastimes was there when he recited a verse for Lord Jagannath. So in that ecstasy, in that mood of great separation, he recited a verse for Lord Jagannath. And described that that verse which he recited was not able, or none of the devotees could also understand the meaning of the verse. None of his devotees who were there, they could not understand the meaning, except few of his confidential devotees. None of them could understand the meaning. And one time what happened, Rupa Goswami happened to be there. He was reciting this verse to Lord Jagannath and Rupa Goswami was there. He heard that verse and he also wrote a similar verse. In one of his palm leaves, he wrote a similar verse, which was explaining the meaning of the verse, which was recited by Mahaprabhu. And this verse, which was recited by Mahaprabhu, it was the mood of the gopis, that how they were feeling intense separation from Krishna, and something related to that. So now when Rupa Goswami wrote that verse, or the meaning of, composed another verse which explained the meaning of that verse, he had kept it in the house, roof of his house. He had kept that palm leaf there. And somehow it happened that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there to his house. He saw that palm leaf, and seeing the meaning, he was also astonished. He went into ecstasy and he was asking everyone, how can he understand this meaning? Or he was asking Swarup Damodar that how did Rupa Goswami understand the meaning of this verse, or the meaning of verse which no one knew. And of course, the Lord knows everything, but still Swarup Damodar Goswami is telling him that, my Lord, it's your special benediction, special mercy on him that he is able to understand the meaning of these verses. And that's why we chant that prayer, Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale. We chant these prayers in glorification of Rupa Goswami, because he had that special benediction. He could understand the mind of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He could understand what the intentions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was. And something very interesting I was reading in that even it's described in that same purport, Prabhupada also writes that I also had that special mercy that I could understand the desires of my spiritual master. So he explains one of the pastime, one of the appearance days of celebration of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he wrote that famous poem in glorification of Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And seeing that prayer, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very, very happy. He was very happy, and he was showing it to all his disciples, all his confidential devotees, all his sannyasis. He was showing and he was telling that he has understood my mind. But that time Prabhupada, whose name was Abhay Charan, that Abhay Charan has understood my intentions. So this was how we understand that great devotees, they could understand the mind of the Lord. Or here Prabhupada could understand the mind of his spiritual master, what he actually wanted, or what he wanted to establish. So that's what we see, all these Mahabhagavats as it's given in this verse. Prabhupada also was a Mahabhagavat, specially empowered devotee of the Lord. And different symptoms that are mentioned here, that as soon as these people, they remember Lord Vishnu, their eyes fill with tears, and they experience many other symptoms are also given, different systems. Their body starts perspiring and their hairs stand on end, and different symptoms of a Mahabhagavat. And even in the life of Prabhupada, we see many such symptoms were exhibited at different places. Different of his disciples tell that how he also exhibited some of these symptoms at different places. In one of the places, Shrutakirti Prabhu, he writes that in Mayapur, when there was a festival that was being held, and many devotees had gathered there, Prabhupada was giving a class, and it was a huge festival. Many devotees had come from different parts of the entire world. And there Prabhupada, in the class, like in the middle of the class, he was giving that class, and suddenly he stopped. Closed his eyes, and there was a very great silence in the entire place that was there. Everyone was staring at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was just in his own world. And there he explains, he writes this, that we were not even taking breaths loudly just so that Prabhupada doesn't get disturbed. So that's how we see even in the pastime of these great devotees, that they also sometimes show these kinds of symptoms. But now one of the very important things we understand here, so after this pastime happened, one of the devotees, it seems he approached Prabhupada. And he was asking regarding that Prabhupada, what happened that time, what happened when you were giving the class and you wanted to ask. He was discussing something regarding that. And then Prabhupada very humbly is saying, I don't do that very often. So this was the mode of Prabhupada. He never wanted to display it, or he never wanted to show all these things, that these are the symptoms that we should manifest, or these are the symptoms we should display. And one very important thing he mentions after that, he says that why are you making it such a big thing? How does it matter? Just chant Hare Krishna and that's it. So one of the things that was very, very clear, as it's mentioned in this purport, all these different symptoms of a Mahabhagavat. But at the same time, very important thing to understand is that all these symptoms that are there, they can be imitated as well. When we understand all these tears coming from the eyes, or perspiration, and all these symptoms, and even a Sahajiya can imitate all these symptoms, or any cheap imitator can imitate all these symptoms. But Prabhupada made it very, very clear that we should not get misled, or we should not be misled just by seeing these external symptoms. And that's why Prabhupada himself was very, very careful not to display these symptoms. And whenever it got displayed also, he didn't make it a big deal. He didn't spoke much about it. And that's why it's very, very important here it becomes to understand what are the actual symptoms, or the symptoms which can not be imitated by someone. So in the Nectar of Devotion, there are 9 symptoms that are given of a person who is on the level of Bhag Bhakti. And these are the symptoms which no one can imitate. These are the symptoms which no one can copy, and even if he tries to imitate, he cannot do it for a long time. And we can make out who is advanced or who actually has made sufficient advancement in devotional service. So these 9 actual symptoms are described as Shantir avyartha kalatvam, viraktir manya shunyata, asha bandha samutkantha, namagane sada ruchi, asaktis tad gunakhyane, pritis tad vasati sthale, iti adayo nubhava syur jata bhavankure jane. So all these 9 symptoms that are given, they are called as anubhava. Anubhava are subordinate signs of aesthetic emotion. And they are visible in a person in whose heart the love of God has begun to fructify, or who has reached that level of devotional service. And these 9 symptoms it's given, these anubhavas, they are very, very difficult to imitate. No one can imitate all these symptoms. Only a person who has reached that platform can actually, out of his own, he does not need to imitate, out of his own the symptoms will get manifested in him. So what are these symptoms? The first is given as Shantir, which means tolerance. So very amazing definition that was given is, tolerance means being undisturbed even when there is a cause for disturbance. So meaning even when there was a cause or even when there is something going wrong, still the person remains undisturbed. And the example for this is given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, one of the examples that was given from the Bhagavatam, that is the example of Maharaj Parikshit. So now we all know that past time when Maharaj Parikshit was thirsty and he was going around searching for water, and then he entered the hermitage of Shamik Rishi. And Shamik Rishi didn't receive him well, didn't hear him because he was in his own trance. And Parikshit Maharaj, being very, very angry, put a dead snake on his this shoulder, on his throat. And he left that place. And because of this reason, when Shringi, the son of Shamik Rishi, he came to know this fact, we all know he cursed Parikshit Maharaj that may he be bitten by a snake in 7 days. But even after all that, he had complete cause of being disturbed. There was a reason for him to become anxious, to be disturbed. But still it's given that he accepted this as good news. He accepted this as a benediction that now I have a chance to give up everything and engage in full-time devotional service, or engage in hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord. So this was the mood of Maharaj Parikshit. That even though externally there was a cause of disturbance, externally there was something wrong, but still he was undisturbed by that. He tolerated all that. And his mood was just one, that whatever happened, let whatever is destined to happen, let it happen. Let the snake bird or any magical bird that is supposed to bite me, let it bite me. But I only desire to hear more and more about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. I only want to hear the glories of Lord Krishna. And this was his mood. And this we can see the quality of Shantir or tolerance being displayed in the mood of Maharaj Parikshit. Another quality that is mentioned is Avyartha Kalatva. That means not wasting time. So again, the meaning that is given is the devotees who are on the platform of Bhag Bhakti, who are on this level, they continuously, all through the time, by their words, by their speech, and even within their minds, they are continuously engaged in offering their service to the Supreme Lord. Basically, they dedicate their entire lives to the Supreme Lord and they are completely satisfied by that. They do not want anything else. The entire time they spend just in serving the Supreme Lord. And it's given as Krishna Sambandh Vina Kal Vyarth Nahi Aaye. They are very, very careful that not even a moment should be wasted without any activity that is related to Krishna, that is related with Lord Krishna, or that is not connected with Lord Krishna. Even one moment should not be wasted in such an activity. And again, even in this, the example from Bhagavatam that is given is the example of Maharaj Parikshit. So it's described that when he got to know that he was cursed, or he only had 7 days to live, even he was in anxiety. He had some anxiety. But that anxiety was not being worried about his life, what will happen to me, who or how will it die, how can I take this curse back, or something like that. His anxiety was very clear. He says that let whatever is destined to happen, let it happen. It doesn't matter. But just let me see that not a moment of my time is wasted without a relationship with Lord Krishna. Not even a moment of my life is wasted outside of Krishna's service. So even though he knew he had 7 days to live, he was very, very eager to make sure that not even one moment is wasted without serving the Lord or without engaging in serving the Supreme Lord. And this is again the quality of avirtha kalatvam, that is not wasting even a single moment. The third thing that is given is viraktir, which means having natural detachment or distaste for object of senses. So this is not that forceful detachment or distaste which we try for object of the senses, but this is natural detachment. Naturally, these people, they are detached from objects of the senses. And there are many examples that are given. One, we know the example of Yamunacharya. Like, who was a great king. It's described that before in his life he was a great king. He had many, many wives, many, many princesses he used to enjoy with. But after he became a great devotee of the Lord, the same thing, even when the thought of sex used to come in his mind, his lips used to curl with distaste, and he used to spit at that thought. Just because he had got a higher rasa or nava, he had got a higher bliss in serving the Supreme Lord. So this is the example that is given, is the natural detachment that comes for the object of senses, for the people who are on that platform of Bhava Bhakti. And another example we can see in this was the example that is given of Bharat Maharaj. Even in that very famous shloka from the Bhagavatam is quoted for Bharat Maharaj, who was a very, very opulent king. And this shloka that is quoted is Yo dustajan dara sutan suhrid rajyam hidi sparsha jahu yuveva malavad uttam shloka lalasa. So it's given that Uttam Shloka Lalasa, King Bharat Maharaj was very, very eager to obtain the association of the Supreme Lord. He had so much greed, so much lalasa for attaining the association of the Supreme Lord, that he gave up everything which is very, very dear to a general person. He gave up his wife, he gave up his opulent kingdom, he gave up his children. Not because they were disturbing him or they were not affectionate to him or something like that. Everyone was affectionate to him, everyone was loving, obedient, caring to him, but still he gave up everything just because he had developed that eagerness to serve the Supreme Lord. And the example comparison is also given, very, very extreme comparison, just as one gives up stool after passing it. So just like a person gives up stool, he has no attachment for it, natural distaste for it is there. Same way Bharat Maharaj also gave up everything. So this is the example that is given of Viraktri. The natural distaste or detachment comes from the object of the senses. There is no artificial or forceful restraint that is there, but naturally a person is distasteful of all these things. Another thing that is mentioned is another symptom of Bhava Bhakti, that is Mana Shunyata, which means pridelessness. So again, a very amazing definition is given in that Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu of this term, that is, in spite of having a high position, remaining humble. So one we see that sometimes this mood is there that devotees keep on saying, I am very fallen and all these things. But here the point that is mentioned, that in spite of having a high position, in spite of serving, putting all our endeavor and doing whatever is necessary, but still remaining humble. In spite of if a person endeavors for some service, does some service nicely and is able to receive appreciation for that, but still he remains humble, that this is the mercy of the Lord. That is what is given as Man Shunyata. And the example in the Bhagavatam is given, example from the Bhagavatam is of Bhagirath Maharaj. So Bhagirath Maharaj, we all know, was a very, very great king. And here we are discussing about the descent of Mother Ganges. So we know that Bhagirath Maharaj was the one who did austerities for a long time just to bring that Mother Ganges to Bharatvarsha. Even though it's described that even before him, many of his forefathers tried to bring the Mother Ganges, but all of them were unsuccessful. And Bhagirath Maharaj was the one who was successful in bringing Ganga down to the Bharatvarsha. But still he was described, even though he was the crown jewel of all the kings, he was very, very humble or completely prideless. It's described that he used to wander about throughout the city. Even in the city of his enemies, he used to wander about and he used to beg alms from them. And he was even offering respect to the Chandalas. He used to offer respect to everyone, even the low class men. That was the Mane Shunyata, or that was the pridelessness he had. And this is one of the examples that is given of Mane Shunyata or pridelessness. So like that, till now we discussed 4 points. One was Shantir, tolerance. Second was Avyartha Kalatvam, that is not wasting a single moment. And in both of them, the example of Maharaj Parikshit is given. The third was Viraktir, having natural distaste for object of senses. And again, the example of Bharat Maharaj was given in this. And fourth is Mane Shunyata, or complete pridelessness. And the example that was given is of Bhagirath Maharaj, who brought the Mother Ganges down to this Bharatvarsha. Another, the fifth symptom that is given is Asha Bandha. What it means is Krishna Kripa Kari Bena Drida Kari Jane. Meaning, a fully surrendered devotee always hopes that Lord Krishna will be kind to him. This hope is very firm in him. This is means he has that strong faith or strong hope, or in Prabhupada terms, he has a hope against hope that Krishna will shower his mercy or Krishna will be kind to him. And here Rupa Goswami gives the example of Sanatan Goswami. He gives his example and he says, he quotes one of the statements of one of the verses of Sanatan Goswami, where Sanatan Goswami writes like this. So Sanatan Goswami writes, "O my Lord, I do not have any love for you, nor am I qualified for discharging devotional service by chanting and hearing, nor do I possess the mystic power of a Vaishnava, knowledge or pious activities, nor do I belong to a very high caste family. On the whole, I do not possess anything. Still, O beloved of the gopis, because you bestow your mercy on the most fallen, I have an unbreakable hope that is constantly in my heart. And that hope is that you will shower your mercy on me." And this is what he quotes, that this was the mood of Sanatan Goswami. Although if we analyze all these things, we can make out these are not correct. Means Sanatan Goswami is writing that, but he was born in a very high caste family. He was a very, very great personality. But still, this was his own personal mood, that he thought that I am a very, very fallen personality. But the Lord is the friend of the fallen. Lord is Dinabandhu, and he will definitely shower his mercy on me. So this is what is given as the example of Asha Bandha, or hope against hope that Lord will shower his mercy on the person. Then the sixth one that is mentioned, the symptom is Samutkantha, which means intense greed for attaining the service of the Lord. Very, very intense hankering for attaining the service of the Lord. And the example that is given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is the example of Bilva Mangal Thakur. That how he had the strong desire to associate with the Lord, to see the beautiful form of the Lord, to hear that intoxicating sound of the flute. He had that intense, very, very strong greed for attaining association of the Lord. And that's why he displayed this symptom of Samutkantha, or the intense desire to attain the service of the Lord. So this was the sixth symptom that is described as Samutkantha. The next symptom that is given is Nam Gane Sadaruchi. Nam Gane Sadaruchi. Which means having that taste to chant the names of the Lord constantly, or always chanting the holy names of the Lord with ruchi, with taste. Nam Gane Sadaruchi. And here the example that is given is the example of Srimati Radharani. That she constantly sings the names of the Lord, she constantly chants the name of the Lord in a very, very sweet voice, and constantly tears pour from her eyes. So she had that taste, or the example is given that she had displays that symptom of Nam Gane Sadaruchi, that intense taste for chanting the names of the Lord. And then the next symptom that is mentioned is Asaktis Tat Gunakhyane, or that is attachment to discussing the Lord's qualities, or hearing the Lord's pastime, hearing the Lord's qualities. And again, the example here that is given is the example of Bilva Mangal Thakur. He had this strong attachment to hearing the pastimes of the Lord, and he had realized, because he had realized the sweetness of the Lord. He had realized the sweetness of Krishna's body, Krishna's smile, and that's why he had that strong attachment to hearing the qualities of the Lord. So that is given as Asaktis Tat Gunakhyane. And finally, the last symptom that is mentioned is Pritis Tad Vasati Sthale. That is always residing in a place, or having that intense eagerness to reside in a place which Krishna performed his pastimes, or where Krishna's pastimes were performed. And here it's explained that anyone who has a desire to reside in a temple, reside in Vrindavan, Mayapur or Puri, intense desire, that is called as Pritis Tad Vasati Sthale, or residing in a place where Krishna's pastimes were performed. In one of Rupa Goswami's own Padyavali, he writes this, that when will I be fortunate to wander about in Mathura, where Nand Maharaj house was there, or when Nanda's house was there, where Krishna broke the cart and where Lord Damodar was bound up by ropes. So basically that intense eagerness to be in that place of Mathura, or that Mathura Mandal where Lord performed his own pastimes. So we see all these different 9 symptoms. We discussed all these 9 symptoms, which are the symptoms of bhav, which are described as the symptoms of bhava bhakti. And these are apart from those symptoms we discussed previously, the ecstatic symptoms which appear in a devotee. But these are the symptoms which are the differentiating factor. Because if we see all these symptoms, no one can imitate these symptoms for a long period of time. Even if someone tries, he can imitate them for some time, for some year, for some months, or something like that. But no one can imitate these symptoms consistently throughout. Only a person who has attained that stage can actually exhibit these symptoms, or these symptoms naturally appear in that person. And one of the examples we can see, and we all know for ourselves, one personality who displayed all these symptoms throughout his life, and that is Srila Prabhupada. If we discuss all these symptoms one by one, we can elaborate and give many examples of how at many points in his life Prabhupada displayed all of these symptoms. And it was very clear throughout his life that he was actually a Mahabhagavat. He was actually a great devotee of the Lord. And we can discuss the examples, like we saw the example of Shantir, tolerance. So it's described, we all have discussed, when Prabhupada went to the West, so many hardships he faced. His typewriter was stolen, he didn't have a place to live. Even while traveling to the West, he met with heart attacks. So many things happened, but he tolerated everything. And in fact, in one of his letters to one of his disciples, he writes like this. Prabhupada says that I was always determined that somehow I would do everything possible to fulfill the desire of my Guru Maharaj. And despite all difficulties, I always remained enthusiastic. So we see, even though he met with so many difficulties, so many problems, but he tolerated everything, and he continued with his practice of devotional service, or continued with his service of preaching in the West. So that's how we could see that even that quality of tolerance or shanti was displayed in Prabhupada. When it comes to the quality of avyarth kalatma, so that we all know his busy schedule that was there, that he was never tired of working for Krishna. In the night, he would be busy translating the books. Daytime, he would be busy going out, giving lectures, sometimes writing letters to some of his devotees, and sometimes meeting so many different personalities who used to come to meet him. Sometimes doing so many different kinds of activities, sometimes being in the kitchen, teaching his disciples to cook. So many activities consistently he used to continued performing, and he was never tired of working, or never he wasted even a single moment not engaged in any activity related with Lord Krishna. So this is how we can see that even this symptom, avyarth kalatvam, was clearly manifested in Srila Prabhupada. When it comes to other symptoms, when I talk of virakti, detachment. So one very interesting example I saw about this. So when Prabhupada was in Australia, when Prabhupada was preaching in Melbourne, so that time it happened somehow, some of his well-wishers, some of his disciples, they gave him a Rolls Royce. Or they gave him a reception in a nice Rolls Royce. A car came for Prabhupada, received Prabhupada, and he went throughout the place. He went throughout the place preaching and doing his activities. But now when reporters of that place, they came to know that thing, they all approached Prabhupada. And they started asking Prabhupada that your religion is a very austere one, very ascetic one. Does it suit you to travel in this Rolls Royce, or does it look suitable that you're traveling in this big car and you're doing all these things? And Prabhupada gave a very amazing reply. He said that, yes, I have accepted this Rolls Royce, but this is not for my benefit. I would be happy walking on the streets, but it is for their benefit I have accepted this as a favor. Because my disciples have offered me this, for their benefit I have accepted this Rolls Royce, and I'm going in this. If it was not offered, I would be happy to walk or go around and preach in the entire place. So this is how we see the detachment he had from any kind of object, or detachment he had from any kind of material comforts. He was not attached that he should get this car or he should get some facilities, but for the favor of his disciples, he used to accept all these facilities. So that was the quality of virakti that he displayed. When it comes to mane shunyata, or pridelessness, again we know what he did was impossible for any other person to do. So many others, even before Prabhupada, many of his god brothers went to the West, but they couldn't do anything. But still, after doing all that, still after creating such big organization, he gave the entire credit to his spiritual master. He told that all this I was able to do just because of the mercy of my spiritual master. And he writes in one of the letters, he says, personally, I am just a non-entity. I have come here on the order of my spiritual master, and he has kindly sent you all boys to assist me. So whatever is being done, there is no credit for me. All the credit goes to my spiritual master because he has arranged everything, and I am simply to abide by his order. So this we clearly see the quality of Manishunyata. So we understood the definition of pridelessness that was given was, in spite of having a high position, remaining humble. So Prabhupada at that high position, Prabhupada actually did something which no one could do. But still his humility was that he gave the entire credit to his own spiritual master. He didn't accept even a single credit for himself. And he said the only credit I have is I just repeated whatever I heard from my spiritual master. So this is how we can see all the different qualities, be it Shanti, Avyarta Kalatmam, Virakti, Manishunyata, and even the other qualities that are given, like Nam Gane Sada Ruchi. Consistently it was heard many times his lips was vibrating, even when he was on his deathbed in Vrindavan. His tongue was constantly vibrating, chanting the names of the Lord. So we see how much attachment Prabhupada had to chanting the names of the Lord. And that's what we see the quality of Nam Gane Sada Ruchi he had. And when it comes to Priti Stad Vasati Sthale, that it was fixed. Prabhupada had decided that I wanted, in the last phase of my life, I want to be in Vrindavan, or I want to stay in Vrindavan. So he had intense attachment for the place where Lord performed in pastimes, the place of Vrindavan, the holy place of Vrindavan. So like that we can see all the symptoms of Mahabhagavat that are given, or all these symptoms that are given. Prabhupada personally exhibited all these symptoms, or all these symptoms were seen in Prabhupada. And that's why it's very, very important that we should understand, we should know all these symptoms. At least that is long way to go, that when we reach that stage that these symptoms become exhibited, but still at least we understand that not just by artificially seeing the external symptoms, as it's given in this verse, eyes filled with tears, are all these symptoms. Of course, they are also symptoms, but they can be imitated. But if we understand these symptoms of a person who has developed that love of Godhead, then we can actually understand one who is actually advanced in devotional service, one who has actually attained that kind of stage of devotional service. And this, all these we can say as the symptoms of a Mahabhagavat. So with this I would like to pause here. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, bro, for the nice class. It's always very purifying to hear all the symptoms of Bhava Bhakti. And someday, by Lord's mercy, we should. Then what's the point of doing devotional service if we cannot reach? Yes. And this point that you made, anything that is connected to the Lord becomes very auspicious. So I was thinking we also should remain always connected to the Lord, so that we can also advance in Krishna consciousness and remain auspicious. And all the different symptoms that you mentioned, I think other devotees can also share. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the very nice class. You explained so many symptoms of devotional service, pure devotional service. So, some of the points which I liked was like great devotees can understand the mind of the Lord. And you also explained how Prabhupada also understood the mind of his spiritual master. And one more point which I liked was we had to utilize our time 24 hours a day without any, we should not waste even a moment. Um, so we should always be engaged in the devotional service. And the pure devotee always has natural detachment from material attraction. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you started your class with the things which are connected to Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu, and you were telling like they are more auspicious. And even Prabhu, recently one devotee was telling me like you were giving the example of Kolkata. So one devotee was telling like it is like in if we do any devotion in Mayapur, it is like 1,000 times more potent, and if we do in Kolkata, it's like 10,000 more potent. So that is Mayapur is Sri Kshetra and Kolkata is Sri Pad Kshetra. So even in this Padma Purana or somewhere like Parvati, when Parvati asked which Aradhana is the supreme. So even Lord Shiva also tells there the same point like Tadiya Nam Samarchanam. So offering respect to Vaishnavas, Tulsi, like Ganga water, anything which is connected to Lord Vishnu is like more superior to even directly giving respect to Lord Vishnu himself. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for nice class. I like the point that you told Abarta Kalatam, the devotee which is the Anubhava, that symptom, one of the symptom is Abarta Kalatam. He performs body, mind and speech he 24 into 7 in the Lord's service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the nice class. So very nicely explained the 9 symptoms of Bhava Bhakti and nicely related how Srila Prabhupada possesses all these wonderful qualities. And I also thinking this point, anything that is related to Krishna is very, very auspicious. And Prabhupada is very, very dear to Krishna, very related to Krishna. So I'm feeling very, very fortunate to be in relation with Srila Prabhupada and be grateful for it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thanks for the class. I am contemplating this point, same thing, like anything it comes to touch with the lotus feet of the Lord, it will turn to auspiciousness. So, my contemplation is like our acharyas provided everything, like prasad, everything touched with the Lord. So still, as a me, how I am now remembering the Lord in all time. That is also matter. Everything is there from that side. Then my what is from my side. That is also I am contemplating this point. This point is very nice.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. As everyone else told all the points, I've nothing to tell, but the thing which you have mentioned about Prabhupada showing the qualities of pure devotees, and it is very rare that people show that devotee symptoms, and anything related to Lord is very auspicious, and remembering the Lord at all times is very important, and for some people like me it is difficult quite, but yeah, we have to try remembering the Lord in every situations and grow more. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you very much for this nice class. So you explained this many symptoms of Bhava Bhakti, and one of them of that was Asha Bandha, and here the example of Sanatan Goswami was given, that how he always hoped that Krishna will definitely shower mercy upon him, even though he thought that he had so many disqualifications, like he was born in a lower family and many other disqualifications he had, but still he had the hope that one day Krishna will shower mercy upon him. So for sadhakas like me, I also should think like that. And as you mentioned, hope against hope. So that is the biggest thing, that one should never lose hope. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for this wonderful class. So here in starting you spoke about the water of Ganga, like how it very auspicious that when it touches the feet of the Lord, so even Saptarishi, Lord Shiva, all they want to put it on their head, and because that is in connection with the Lord. So whatever come in connection with the Lord is very auspicious, and it's more. It is same. It get the same respect as the Lord, and so this is and the ninth symptom of Bhava Bhakti, in that you related like how Prabhupada also showed all the 9 symptom of Bhava Bhakti. So by hearing Prabhupada and following his teaching, we can also slowly develop this Bhava Bhakti. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Jai.